We're doing something different today. Today we are going to be ranking every MCU movie, and you may be asking me why, and I say because there's an MCU movie coming out this week. That's a pretty big deal, and I want to go back and look at all the other ones from like the past 5 or so phases. So today we're gonna be ranking. Oh, that is really shitty that happened. Why? Off the cuff, just we're gonna record this right now and get it done and over with because I like the making the video process, and I'm gonna rank in every MCU movie. I have a lot of hot takes when it comes to the MCU. I have very particular taste with these movies, and I am a comic book reader. I'm a comic book fan, and I really, really like when comic book movies are good and they take a lot from elements from comic books and if they're just enjoyable in general. So yeah, we're gonna do this today. So we're gonna start from phase 1 and we'll work our way down, or we're just gonna work our way to phase 5, because overall it goes straight from masterpiece straight down to bad very quickly. But we're going to start with the best 10 years of the MCU and work our way backwards because obviously you want to know what my least favorite project is. And I'll tell you what it is if you stick to the end of the video. Alright, let's do it. So if I can find it, okay, Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1 is fine. I never really had any, that is Iron Man 2. God fucking damn it. Alright, there it is, Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1 is a fine movie. I don't really have any, particular taste in it. It's a fine, it's where everything started, so, you gotta rank it at least a little bit higher than the other ones. But, nothing truly special about it. I think out of all of them, it is the most of its own style of movie, and it didn't start at all, so we're just gonna keep it a mid because I don't really have any opinions for it. Otherwise, here's the Hulk. Okay, the Hulk was our first fine, a very distracting movie. Just the fact that Edward Norton is Bruce Banner and every other actor in this movie eventually would come back to play their roles is weird, but again, it's a fine movie. CGI is fine. Oh, Thor is another fine. I'd probably rank it higher than Hulk though. It's a fine movie. It was my first MCU movie in theaters. Yes, and I have very clear nostalgia of going to see that movie. At the time, they had a big giant stand of the hammer in the theater, and it was really big. I thought it was really cool, and that's the most notable thing about this movie. Captain America, the first Avenger. I'm sorry. It's in my top 5. This is the one movie that just rewatching it a couple of years ago, rewatching it now, dude, it's so good. It is fantastic. Well, it's a masterpiece, honestly, and it's literally one of my top 5 MCU movies of all time. So, sorry. There it is. All right, Avengers 1. It's a fantastic movie. You can't rank it low. Again, it was a phenomenon, bro. I remember it. I saw it a couple times at theaters, and I was 6 years old. That shit was fire. And I think the characters are really good in this movie. I think it's probably the best characterization of everybody so far. And I just realized something. I missed a movie. It was Iron Man 2. It's a mid. It's I don't mind Iron Man 2 like a lot of people do. I'll be real. It's a top of fine. You see, this is kind of the perception here because I don't think none of these movies are bad, including this one. People think it's really bad. Rhodey's really cool in it, and yeah, I remember the marketing of that movie. I didn't go to go see it in theaters because I was 4 years old, but I remember the marketing for it a lot, and it was a lot of hype because people really liked Iron Man, and he looked really cool in that movie. But Whiplash was a very poor villain, very, very poor villain. Yeah, Justin Hammers is pretty funny. Anyway, we're gonna go on to the last movie in the Iron Man trilogy. Oh, look at that. And I think this movie is fantastic. I think it's the same thing with this, right? I watch it again and I'm like, damn, I really like that one. This one's really good. I don't know why. It is Shane Black with Robert Downey Jr. Come on, that's such a good pairing. They're such fanatic. They're really good casting, and I really do enjoy it a lot. Okay, so now we are gonna be here talking about Phase 2. I am aware that Iron Man 3 started it, but I don't care. This is where the movies kind of go a little drop off for me. Some of them are still in that mid-fine tier, because the MCU has some very mixed movies in this era, but I will say there are some really, really good bangers. And first and foremost, I think after Iron Man 3, it was Thor: The Dark World, which is never a good sign, because that is like, it's like right here. It's a mixed bag. I don't really mind it. I remember some stuff being super iconic from the movie, like Loki on the throne, and Thor getting his hand chopped off, and Loki faking his death. I'm really excited for this character, even though they really messed him up on his first 2 movies. And, going from that to, I think, probably one of the more fantastic movies in this run, about Captain America and the Winter Soldier, these two are starkly different. I think Winter Soldier is really good. I think the Russo brothers are really good directors. In fact, I'm probably going to put it like right here. And I think the Russo brothers need a lot of praise for this. It's one of the top MCU movies in general. It's, again, Fantastic Tier is more of like general rankings of it. Masterpiece is more of my top 5 movies, and we haven't really gotten too much of those yet. A lot of those are in Phase 3, some in Phase 4, so we're going to have to get there eventually. But we are looking at a Fantastic Tier for Captain America the Winter Soldier. Another banger came out that year, and I remember seeing this movie, actually. In fact, I don't remember seeing this movie. I don't know why, but I do remember seeing this one, and this one really captivated me as a kid, because it kind of made me enjoy the character of Star-Lord for some reason. Where this James Gunn completely cooked, and this is why he's probably one of the best comic book directors of all time. And this movie really proved it. I think all the actors are casted perfectly. Everybody acts the best. Vin Diesel is obviously on his top game with 1 or 2 lines. And this is really the start of when the MCU actually becomes its own character, and it becomes more of a personality-based franchise where they realizes that it's a comic book franchise. We should play it up the comic book shit. And then they follow it up with a mid-Avengers movie. I don't mind Age of Ultron. I think the idea of the Avengers fighting together, this is like one of the only movies where they just fight together to fight like a medium-sized threat. Being here is it's a fine interpretation of them. Personally, I just don't think the story is that strong. I think it's too much setup, and I think this is when they start realizing that, man, we should really use Avenger movies very sparingly, because we don't really want an Avengers movie being in the mid category. And man, it's the top of fine, because it's a very fine movie. It is a nothing burger of a movie. Paul Rudd's great. I think some of the best action sequences were not the current director of that movie's ideas, which is sad, considering that the other 2 movies I think are, we'll get to them, but we're gonna move on to Civil War. It's a mid. It's top of mid. It's top of mid, just on the fact that I really, really think making an entire Captain America movie a Civil War movie was a mistake. But that's just me. I don't know. I think this Captain America movie was really good. I think for the ending of this trilogy, it's great. It's a good ending because, again, it brings it all full circle to what he believes in, not what not what his country, his government believes in. Like that. I like the introduction of Spider-Man and Black Panther, and basically the introduction of Ant-Man into this wider MCU, and it really fills out the rosters of what we're looking at here. It's a fun time. I like seeing superheroes beat each other up, beat each other off too. This is the beginning of phase 3 here, and we don't really get to learn more about what happens after the fall of this movie for a while. I don't think. I'm looking at the list right now. It doesn't look like any of the projects here. Okay, yeah, phase 3, and I think phase 3 starts with Guardians 2. And I'll be honest with you, it's top of mid. This is probably the most run-of-the-mill superhero movie James Gunn has ever made, and I was really excited for it, and I think that's what made me blindly think it was probably one of the best MCU movies, but it's not. The first one's a million times better. The story is not as captivating. Yondu's death is pretty sad, but I just had no real attachment to this movie at all. One of the weirder ones. Oh no, wait on. After that, we get into Doctor Strange, which I think, surprise, surprise, it's gonna be in a mid tier, but it's gonna be like in the middle. I really like it. It's fun. It's inventive. It's got Harrison. It's a really good director. Yeah, it's a good movie. After it was okay, we're skipping around, but the next one I know for a fact is Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I think it's a low on fantastic, but it's still a good ass movie, man. It's a good reinvention of Peter Parker. I don't want to hear it. I think for the MCU, this version of Peter Parker works a lot. Certain style to this movie that really works. It's very CGI heavy, which I don't really like, but the story is simple. It's small scale. That's what Spider-Man should be, and I enjoy it. Tom Holland's great in that movie. Every actor plays a teenager very well because they're all pretty much teenagers, which is kind of a first in the Spider-Man movies for some reason. But we are still on phase 3 here, and we are ranking them. And the next movie I have to rank in phase 3 after Spider-Man Homecoming is another top 5 of mine. Thor Ragnarok. Takes that maybe had people like, oh, what the heck? Taika Waititi praising? Yeah, I really like Taika Waititi's direction in this movie. I like that they reinvented the character of Thor, and it was actually fun. This movie made me like Thor and be excited to see him again in the MCU. Okay, I'm being too nice to movies that I don't like, and this is probably the one where I'm like, I really do not fuck with this movie. I think it's fine. Like, I have a very, my idea with this movie is that I think, for some reason, and I think we all kind of know why, the villain of this movie does circles around the main character in terms of acting. The characterization within this movie is a lot. It's not very good for T'Challa, and I think Chadwick Boseman does the best that he can with the script that he was given. But it seems like Michael B. Jordan was given more time to be this character opposed from him for some reason. And Michael B. Jordan obviously stole the show in that movie because he was really good in that movie. I think the story in it was largely not very interesting, and the CGI in it was very, very subpar. The soundtrack is great, and I'll say this, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace and all that, but this is his worst movie, and it's really sad for that to be, because I was 100% sitting here like, you know, whatever they do for Black Panther 2, I know he's gonna kill it, but sadly we will never see that. So, on to a unanimously agreed decision here from the board. Trying to think. Where do I want to put this one? I think it's a masterpiece, just on the fact that it is a very well made movie with all the actors, with the story that they're trying to tell. It's well made. It's kind of surprising how good this movie is made. One of the worst. Ant-Man and the Wasp is really boring. I don't know why people liked it. It made $1 billion because it was in between Infinity War and Endgame, but it is really bad. Anyway, we're going to Endgame, and I feel kind of bad ranking it amongst these things because it is not on par with any of these movies, because you have to watch every movie on this list to understand it. This movie is very good, but on its own, it's top of it. I mean, there's a huge chunk of this movie that is really stretched out, and I think that's fine considering that it's a very important fun sequence, right? But I don't think that this movie really stands on its own against especially these ones here. It does better than these ones, obviously, but these ones are kind of phenomenal. Even though we were all there for this movie opening night, seeing Captain America catch Thor's hammer, Avengers Assemble, I Am Iron Man. We're all crying, we're all there. But after that, the effects of that movie is gone on me, and I think I'm going to be ranking another movie the similar way to this one. But it is an event movie. I don't like ranking it amongst the MCU because it's not really a movie, but it's still a fun time and I enjoy it a lot. Alright, here it is. Alright, No Way Home. Or Far From Home. It is a very controversial movie. I will say that. But I do think it is in the mid category just because, and again, like I like to say, mid is like a B tier. Fantastic is like an A tier. Masterpiece is just my personal top 5. A plus S tier. It is a very compelling Spider-Man movie, even though it is like with James Gunn's Volume 2, very MCU-ifying the characters here. This one made $1 billion though, which is wild. Coming out the back of Endgame, people were really interested in the MCU at this point in time, and for this being the last movie for like 2 years, it's kind of fantastic, I'm not gonna lie. But for a while, we didn't have any MCU movies for like a year in 2020 because of the pandemic, but we did have the announcements of TV shows, which will kick off Phase 4, which will be a TV show that I don't really care for, which is WandaVision. I think WandaVision had a good start, but a terrible finish, and that can really kill a show for me. There is nothing really going on in the show that really stands out to me. Monica Rambeau was a highlight, but I wish we did more with that sword and everything on top of that character. I could care less about this movie. Or project. TV show? Yeah, I could care less about this TV show. Even though quality in the beginning was really great, the ending is CGI monsters fighting each other, which I don't. I'm not coming for WandaVision 4, I'll tell you that. There's another show that I think is a little bit. It teeter-totters on the mid-fine category, but it's like about. It's like right here. I really like Falcon Winter Soldier. I think a lot of people don't like it, but I do think the idea of it being 6 episodes, although I do think it probably could have benefited the show like WandaVision, for this, I think the show should have been a lot longer. I think the show should have just been Sam as Captain America out of the gate. I think no matter where you spin it, it's a fine movie. Or TV show, God. What's after that? Oh, it's, okay. Alright, so we're doing Black Widow. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's not good. I could care less about a movie just really came out. Like, if it was come out in like Phase 3, right, it would be like probably like here. But it came out at the beginning of Phase 4 at the time where I literally could care less about the character of Black Widow. And this was just not a good movie. After that is Loki. And it looks like, okay, Loki Season 1 and 2 are different. Loki Season 1 is fantastic. I think it's great. I think mostly Loki's story in that film is just really, really, really fun. The concept of TVA sets up so much for the future. This should have been the start of the multiverse saga. Let me just say that. We had Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings, and it's a very bottom mid movie. Story's not very interesting. CGI is kind of janky. I like Simu Liu. He's a really good actor in that movie. He's Shang-Chi. Mandarin's not really Mandarin, but I'm interested in what the Ten Rings are. I think it sets up some pretty good things for the MCU, and Wong's in it. Probably best Wong scene. You know what? For that, yeah, the Wong shit in that movie was fantastic. I love Wong. Eternals. Yeah. Okay, I saw this movie opening night. It's right here. It's like right here. Spider-Man No Way Home. It's top of mid. I cannot rank it fantastic because it's not really a movie. You have to watch the other Spider-Man movies that are not even canon to the MCU, which I guess are now, to understand why this movie's really good. I'm sure if you watch this movie without the context of the other things going on in it, you would not enjoy it as much. It made $1 billion. People love it. But I'm telling you, the story is compelling. I think it's a pretty good story. It makes it a lot better than Far From Home. But I don't know if it's because I know the characters in the film, or if I care about this version of Peter Parker. I don't know. But after that is Hawkeye. Oh, Hawkeye won it. Okay, I'll rank them together. I think Hawkeye's really good. I think Hawkeye's fantastic, actually. I think What If is fine. It's like bottom fine. I really like the story of Hawkeye. Even if Kingpin's rushed in it, I really like Jeremy Renner in this show. I don't know why I do. I like Kate Bishop a lot. I like the pizza dog. I like it a lot. A lot, man. Okay, so Moon Knight, everybody. This is hard for me. I really liked Moon Knight, but a lot of people didn't, and I don't think Moon Knight's a very good interpretation of that character at all. In fact, I think it's probably the worst they could have done for that character. Isn't a very good interpretation of Moon Knight. So I think I'm gonna put it here, top of mid, which is just a B tier. These are good movies. These would be fantastic if it wasn't for like certain elements of them pushing them down. But yeah, it's one of my favorite MCU shows, but it's not really saying something really. But then it's Doctor Strange, and I think Doctor Strange is fantastic. I think it's right here. The camera moves. The characters are interesting. The story of Doctor Strange is great. Sam Raimi directs it, and he kills it. But anyway, after that was Miss Marvel. Okay. Fellas, let's be real with this, alright? I think Miss Marvel had a really strong first episode. So, Love and Thunder is bad. I have a Instagram story where I went on my Letterboxd and I ranked it as one of my top 5 MCU movies. Recently, I read the comic that movie is supposedly quote-unquote based on, and I think it is very insulting to the source material. Because She-Hulk is here, and she is top of fine. She is top of fine. She's a mid. I'll put her mid. Bottom of mid. Thing is, I was never really interested in the show, the like Daredevil shit, and I watched the entire show through, and I think the only good episodes of the show are the last 3 episodes. But Werewolf by Night's it's top of mid. It's like, yeah, it's right here. It's a fine one. I really like the special. I think it's very good. I enjoy the Man-Thing. I like Ted a lot. I can't wait to see him more in the MCU, along with the Werewolf by Night himself. But yeah, from that, I think we're going into Wakanda Forever, and I think Wakanda Forever is honestly fantastic. I think it's like right, it's in the middle. I think the story with Namor, I think the characterization of Namor, everything with Namor is really, really good. I think that is one of the best versions of that character ever. However, it makes me really sad that we're not seeing T'Challa fight Namor. We're seeing Shuri, and I think Shuri is a lot stronger in this movie than she ever was in the other Avengers movies or in the first movie. But Shuri's a good Black Panther, and she's very well put in the story. Riri Williams is a little weird. Ironheart, I don't know what they're doing with that character. That show has been made for years, but they haven't released it yet. Probably not a good sign, but that, I think... Okay, we're in 2023 now. The I Am Groot stuff I'm just gonna rank because I don't really care for it. I watched 1 episode, and what I watched, it was very fine. Talking about another bad one. Okay, we're gonna place this one top of bad. Yeah, that's fine. For being a setup for everything, why did he pick an Ant-Man movie for this? Like, this year was probably into 2024 too. One of the worst years for these shows ever. These movies and shows ever. But I will say, top 5 movie, probably number 1. Yeah, it's about my list here. This is pretty valid. Yeah, it's my top 5 here. Dude, I was crying in that theater. It was terrible. I was full on bawling, dude. It was so good. It was so good. On to the worst few things ever. Let's get this out of the way. Bad. This one was really bad. I don't know what the heck happened. The Secret Invasion is such a fine story. Like, it's really like a C tier mid story in the comics. but somehow they made it worse. Loki season 2 was not as good as season 1, but it had a stronger conclusion. But I'll rank them together because they are just like really good companion pieces. Okay, this is when the downfall of Marvel really begins, and why people are like, we really need Deadpool Wolverine right now. We found the worst MCU project, fellas. This is it. Let me speak my truth before I get hate for it. Just simply a corporate ass movie. It was released at the worst possible time. It was made at the worst possible time. It was made when these two shows were getting received pretty well, like I guess in the beginning of them. But as the series went on, no, these two were probably the most unpopular shows out of all of them. It's not made for me, obviously. It's made for like 13-year-olds, like girls that they want to get into this shit. But I don't think that would achieve that either, because it wasn't really well made, and I'm sure the director probably had some magical plan with that movie, but I don't believe it. It is a very, very bad movie that has no worth ever. It is the epitome of going to the theater to watch the end credit scene of a movie. That is it. And it shouldn't be a movie that should be bigger than it is. But it is not. It is a very, very bad movie. It is the worst MCU movie of all time, which is why it ranks under the worst MCU TV show of all time. Because, my god, it is the worst thing on this list. That is my ranking of the MCU. If you want to see more, which I think I'm going to do a Fox X-Men, Fox superhero movies ranking this week, if I feel like it, or if this video does well, I don't know yet, then subscribe and like. If you agree with the list, tell me. If you don't, then scream at me. I enjoy both. I love debating people on these movies because this is like the only thing I know and can confidently talk about in public. So yeah. In summary, nothing of value movies, the best of the MCU. But yeah, that's it. I guess subscribe. Bye.